Why did Beto lose? Hi there, ladies and gentlemen. I'm David Sebesta, along here with John DeVries.
Perfect, David.
Well, you're so welcome. I've been trying so hard to get your name right. I mean, I know our pilot episode, we made a whole segment on me messing up your name.
But I think you have it down now.
I know you're not Don.
No, I'm John.
You're John.
Yeah.
Yes. Well, we're going to be talking today about the election of the governor of 2022 and why Beto lost. What was the deal? Why did Beto lose?
Is that Beto got 48.5% of the vote in 2018 and really threw a scare into everybody's favorite human being.
He ran against Ted Cruz, right?
Right.
Yeah.
But he only got 43% against Greg Abbott in 2022.
Yeah. Well, he lost by 11%.
Right.
And, I was kind of going down through some of the things, and I just want to kind of touch on this in the beginning, is, and I kind of was a little surprised when I saw this because we're really not going backwards, because when Wendy Davis ran against Greg Abbott, she lost by 20%.
That was in 2014.
Right. And then Lupe Valdez, which was the Dallas County Sheriff, a well-known lesbian woman, lost by 13% of the vote against Abbott. Okay. And then when Beto ran, he lost by 11% this last time. Now, John has a few great, interesting things he wants to talk about on this, so I'm going to turn it over to John for a moment.
Thank you, David. I want to briefly mention the electoral data related to race, related to gender, related to population density of the county, rejected to the region, the geographical regions of Texas, related to the status to the voting behavior of households that owned a gun versus households that did not own a gun. And of course, I want to spend some limited time on suburbs who are the key swing voting bloc in the state. Okay.
So let's start with race, John. So what about race?
65% of Texas whites voted for Abbott. 65%, David. That's almost two-thirds. Two-thirds being 67%.
65%
of Texas whites, Anglos, 65%. David and I were not part of that 65% group. 69% of white men, which is above two-thirds, voted for Abbott. 64% of white women voted for Abbott. So it would really help Democratic election prospects if we could get the white vote for Republican candidates down to 60% of whites rather than 65%. Okay, so that's one thing, race. Now,
so lost by 11%.
54-43. Valdez lost 55-42.
What was the African American breakdown of the vote?
Good question, because I would have gone right over to the women, and I'm glad you asked me. 90% of Texas black women voted for Beto. 90. That's 9 out of 10. That's like, well, okay.
Well,
90% of black Texas women voted Beto. 78% of black Texas men voted Beto. Well over 80% of black voters went for Beto. Now, Hispanics was really disappointing. It's one of the big reasons why Beto lost. I can't believe this, David, but only 57% of Texas Hispanics who cast a ballot voted Beto, when in past elections it's been much closer to two-thirds and 70%. There's been a real decline in the Hispanic vote. The other thing
is Beto is Hispanic, am I correct?
No,
he is not. No, he's
Anglo. Beto speaks fluent Spanish. Beto was raised in El Paso, and and served on the El Paso City Council for a few years. His dad was an Anglo, was a prominent politician in El Paso who served as county judge, the head of the El Paso County government, which was a real substantial entity because El Paso is such a large city.
Well, looking at this map, and I'm going to put the map up on the screen, Beto did carry El Paso.
Yes, but he was supposed to. But he only got 63% in El Paso, David.
Which is a predominantly Hispanic area.
Well, about 60% Hispanic. But the point I'm trying to make, one point I'm trying to make, David, is that in 2018, Beto got about 2/3 of the vote in El Paso, like 67%, 66%. In 2022, he dropped down to 63. He needed 70% in 2022 to have a shot at winning the election. He needed 70% of the El Paso County vote.
And why do you think that the El Paso County vote kind of lagged behind in the gubernatorial election?
It was all over the state, David. It was all over the state. The percentage of the electorate that voted for Beto was smaller in county after county after county, even the urban blue counties, compared to 2018.
Did he just not resonate with the...
Well, I'm trying... Well, one other key number that I want us to understand, David, 21%. 21% of the Texas electorate in 2022 was Spanish. It was much larger in 2018. The whiter the Texas electorate, the less racially diverse the Texas electorate, the better Republicans do. And only 21% of the Texas electorate in 2022 was Spanish.
So it was predominantly, what you're saying is basically the racial makeup of the Texas electorate is predominantly white.
In 2022.
The makeup of the Republican Party is mostly white.
Right.
And white, ring, Christian.
Well, white and certainly conservative.
Conservative, very staunch, very anti rights for minorities, women.
Very anti-marginalized people. Anti-marginalized people.
And I found it real surprising. What was the African American number for the men?
78%. Just 78%. Some of those people.
They voted for.
Voted for Abbott. No, 78% voted Beto, but it should have been 90. Because 90%.
So then you still had 22% that voted for Abbott, and I just don't. I mean,
they like Trump's. A few like Trump's macho-ness.
What it gets to is it comes like how your family told you to vote.
Okay.
And so that point is when you're, it's kind of a cycle of voting within the family. But as you touched on, and I heard we've had a conversation on, is mostly in Hispanic households, they're hardworking people. They're people that are mainly go out and are very strong with their family and have very much and so they're Catholic. So it also religious background plays somewhat of a role in
family church. Work, family church. Work, family church. That is what the Hispanics prioritize. Like my family growing up in rural Iowa a long time ago, we did church, education, music. Church, education, music. Church, education, music. So, but they don't have a commitment. There is no widespread commitment to civic involvement. No really widespread commitment to civic involvement. There are obviously Hispanics who are very involved in politics and current events, but there's no widespread commitment to civic involvement in the Hispanic community to the extent that there is to work, family, church. And too many people in the Hispanic community, I'm not criticizing the Hispanic community, view politics as a corrupt enterprise where it's hard for them to see how the result of an election improves their life. But the last thing I wanted to say about Hispanics, 57% voted for Beto in 2022 in Texas. It should have been higher. It should have been much higher. So we've got race. Now let's go to gender. Now, 51% of Texas women voted for Abbott. 49% voted for Beto. Okay. But, as I mentioned earlier, 64% of white women voted for Abbott. 90% of black women voted for Abbott.
So what was the men? Since we're in the gender, 61% of women voted. So what was the makeup of the men?
58% of white men. 58% of men voted for Abbott. Now, one other thing I wanted to mention.
So why was it higher in the women than the men?
Because Abbott is anti-abortion. There's a thing called a gender gap in American politics. In almost every state, women tend to be less Republican than men. Women tend to be less conservative than men. A greater proportion of women are Democrats compared to men. The reason that's important, there is speculation that Abbott's enthusiasm for making all abortions illegal might cause real electoral problems for him. But here's the thing. A majority of Texas voters, it's been confirmed in polls, support Roe versus Wade. But 1/4 of the supporters of Roe versus Wade still voted for Abbott. And we're not going to see Abbott or people like him lose until all the people who support Roe versus Wade vote against the Republicans.
So what do you think pretty much moved the needle on the women in Texas?
Well, because women haven't suffered enough from this terrible decision. Yet. The key word is yet. It just came down. Wait till we go through a couple of years of this misery and we'll see what happens. We'll see what happens in 2024. The other thing is, a plurality of the people who seek abortions tend to be from impoverished communities, and they tend to have less political clout, and a smaller proportion of them vote.
Women's rights is and actually LGBTQ rights are pretty much a no-go with the Republican Party.
An absolute no-go.
With the Republican Party, they're a no-go. With the Democratic Party, it's a go. It's a go for launch.
Pretty supportive.
The Republicans are anti-LGBTQ and anti-women's rights, and you would have thought that the abortion issue would have been a little bit more of a move of the needle in this type of situation.
Toward the Democrats.
Right.
Okay.
Now let's talk about some guns.
Yeah, let's talk about guns. The households that had a gun in their house, that had a loaded gun in their house, 64% voted for Abbott, almost 2 out of 3. The people who did not have guns in their house, 68% voted Beto. So whether your attitude toward guns and whether you owned a gun, that had an impact on your vote in many cases. An interesting thing is the site of the massacre in Uvalde County, the site where 19 fourth graders were shot to death. 60% of Uvalde County after the massacre voted for Abbott.
We all know that the Republican Party, they are like all into their guns. They think that the Democrats are going to take away their guns. I don't see that. We just want sensible gun laws. And yes, it was repealed by the Republicans and the assault weapons ban that was there. Now, when you hear the governor of Texas, Greg Abbott, talk about guns, he doesn't really... You look at him and like, are you really all serious? Are you serious? But the NRA is the one that has been, right after the Uvalde shooting, he was at the NRA meeting, speaking at the NRA meeting. I believe he went. I don't think he skipped. He didn't skip it, but they were like, why don't you... But so, that is the thing. Guns and Republicans. I think that we need to be a little bit more stricter and have common sense laws that look at people that get people to at least check them out before they buy a gun. Okay, John, where are we going to next?
Okay, let's talk about age. Okay, voters under 30 in Texas, 64% voted for Beto, but their turnout was low. But 60 of the young people under age 30 who voted 64% voted for Beto. The people over 65, I'm 68 years old. The people who are over 65 years old, the old people, voted for Abbott. 62% voted for Abbott in the old category, the old geezers category. The old people, a much higher percentage of old people vote compared to the percentage of young people who vote.
So why do you think that the young folks during presidential election years, you have a better turnout? So I'm assuming that you get a more younger vote. The younger people get out only during the times of
presidential.
Right.
But even then, their turnout isn't satisfactory enough to produce Democratic victories in Texas. But, so, I want to talk about the key population demographic voting block in Texas.
The geographical?
No, not the geographical, the population demographic voting block. I'm talking about suburbs.
Oh, you want to talk about the burbs?
Yeah, the burbs. Tom Hanks, the Burbs movie. That's right.
Okay, so we're going to talk about the burbs.
Yeah,
what about the burbs?
I like talking about the burbs. I like saying burbs. Okay.
So what about the suburban moms, soccer moms?
Historically, David, and everyone else, I'm not talking to just David, obviously, Texas suburbs have almost always been stoutly Republican. But when Trump got in office, he started saying and doing crazy things and started acting in a very unpresidential way and started alarming a lot of rational, moderate suburban voters. And in 2018, Beto O'Rourke actually carried some big upper-income suburban counties and almost sent Ted Cruz crashing to defeat. Like, for instance, Beto carried Collin County, which is Plano, which is Allen, which is Addison. Beto carried Williamson County in 2018, which is Round Rock, which is Georgetown, which is Taylor, which is Pflugerville, which is right outside of Austin. And Beto carried Tarrant County, which combines Fort Worth, which is a city, with Arlington, which is a big, historically Republican suburb. So in 2018, Beto did very well in the suburbs compared to past Democratic candidates. But in 2022, Beto lost Collin County, Plano, Allen. Beto lost Tarrant County, Fort Worth, Arlington. Beto lost Williamson County, Taylor, Georgetown, Round Rock, Pflugerville.
And this was in the gubernatorial, right?
So he lost he lost politically marginal suburbs in 2022 that he won in 2018. He didn't do as well in the suburbs. Okay. So
the demographics of the state of Texas and how they do in their political views, because Texas has always been has been a red state for most of the time that I've known. The only exception that I've ever known that there's not been a non-Republican governor is when Ann Richards was governor. Now, I popped the map up there just a second ago while you were talking, but we were going to talk about geographical
region. Sure, let's talk about
and
that.
So here's the map.
Can we pop the map up? Oh, there it is. Okay.
And we have the map up, and as you know, El Paso's not as blue as I believe that's Williamson County.
I don't know where. Oh, now I see where El Paso is. Okay,
yeah, it's like right in your mouth.
Okay, so let me describe the regions. Okay, we have Panhandle. We know where Panhandle is, right?
I would assume it's up there where
it's right
up at the top up there, like Amarillo by Morning.
Yeah, Amarillo by Morning. I don't even like that song. I don't like I mean, I like the climate of Amarillo, but I don't like the culture.
Well, don't hit the table, or you're gonna.
I'm gonna start pounding this table like Khrushchev.
Yeah, well, quit trying to chew up El Paso.
Okay. So we got Rio Grande. Now Rio Grande would be the counties that border the Rio Grande, which would be the U.S.-Mexican border. Rio
Right.
Grande, okay.
And which is blue.
Which is blue generally. It's stuff like Laredo, Eagle Pass, McAllen, Edinburgh, Brownsville, Weslaco. Okay, and then we have south. Now south would be San Antonio, Corpus Christi, stuff like that. Then we have Gulf, which is kind of the Gulf of Mexico going in 50 miles, and it would include Houston.
Well, that's going to be a down around the Gulf area.
Right,
If I take my finger and look at the screen and go, it's going to be like
you're in the Gulf.
right in this
You're in the
area.
Gulf, right. But I mean, it's more than that. It's like Victoria, where my daughter lives. It's like Galveston. It's like Sugar Land.
Well, see, if you look at that little blue area down there towards the Gulf, that's the Houston Sugar Land area.
Right. Fort Bend County is a suburban county next to Houston. And Beto carried it in 2022, but he didn't carry it as strongly. Okay, so we got Gulf. Now we got East Texas, which is pretty self-explanatory, right?
Yeah. Well, East Texas didn't even light up with any blue, and they got some extra redness in there.
Yeah. And then we have North Texas, right, which is Dallas and Fort Worth and Denton and Plano and Waxahachie and stuff like that. And then we have Central Texas, which is Austin and San Marcos and Seguin and Temple and Killeen and Waco and Bryan College Station, right?
Right.
And then we have West Texas, which is stuff like Abilene and Big Spring and Midland and Odessa and Lubbock and San Angelo, right? So
well, I just see the blue dot of Dallas up there in the Metroplex.
Well, but Dallas is the second largest city in the state. Austin is what? Third. San Antonio is fourth.
And well, it looks like Austin got pretty blue.
Sorry. San Antonio is third. Austin is fourth, and El Paso is fifth.
Well, Austin got pretty blue there.
Well, it is pretty blue. It's the bluest county in the state. Bexar County, David, is just barely Democratic.
Yeah, and
Travis County,
if for all y'all don't know about Bexar County, it is San Antonio, basically.
Right, it is San Antonio. And then Travis County is Austin. We know that, right? Okay, so in order for Beto to win, he would have to pile up whopping majorities in the Rio Grande region. He'd have to get at least 2/3 of the vote, and guess what he got? He got 60%. He needed 2/3. Historically, in the last 30 years, Democrats in the Rio Grande Valley have been getting 67 to 70% of the vote. He got 60. Okay.
So he lost 7%.
Yeah. Well, he didn't get enough votes in the Rio Grande region.
I mentioned this kind of touching on the subject of. Did you know that there's a bill before the legislature right now that is, or they're trying to get it through, where they make school boards partisan?
Well, David, like for example, and there are several conservative suburbs in the Dallas-Fort Worth area, and the conservatives really, and local activist conservatives really got involved with these school board elections because they don't want the history of racism taught.
Right.
And so lots of money was poured into these school board races, and they're still nonpartisan. They're still nonpartisan, but everybody knew who an activist conservative candidate was.
Yes, but what I'm saying is, John, is right now they're trying to cross the state of Texas. What they're wanting to do is basically make school board elections partisan, so that if you run for school board, you have to declare a party, and they're going to run all their little rat hoochie Republicans to go and start a bonfire out in front of the school board office and burn up all the books.
Oh, that's it. Okay.
I mean, I'm being a little overboard when I say that, but you know what I mean.
But one thing, David, that I just want to mention: if elections are nonpartisan, that means low turnout. Partisan elections have much higher turnout. It is state law right now that every single city council in the state, even the really big giant cities like Houston, Dallas, Austin, El Paso, all city councils in Texas have nonpartisan elections. But you know what the turnout is for those nonpartisan elections? About 10% most of the time. Again,
but I don't know, making it partisan is going to help the situation
making it partisan would enlarge the turnout.
Yeah, but which way would it enlarge the turnout?
No, it would enlarge the turnout with the ordinary Joe person. But I mean, I'm not saying that I'm for that bill making school boards partisan.
Well, the thing about it is,
all I'm trying to say is that in Texas, by state law right now, all school board is nonpartisan. All city council elections are nonpartisan. If they were partisan, we would have like in many city councils in Texas, even in the largest cities, city councils are elected with just 1/5 of the voters.
And then they're also wanting to make a bill which creates literally thousands of election marshals. Now, this is something
that's suppression.
Yeah, and that's what the Republicans want to do.
That's what they want to do.
And so, what the McLennan County, we live in McLennan County. If you're watching outside of McLennan County, go to your local Democratic office and see how you can help. But if you are here, we do have some watchdog groups that to watch what the legislature's doing. And here in McLennan County, if you contact Cheryl.Foster@yahoo.com, she can tell you how to help out in the watchdog things. This has been Looking Left with David and John. And we want to thank you for joining us today.
Thank you for listening.
And, you know, we wish that Beto would have beat Abbott, but there's obvious reasons why he didn't. And I hope we kind of touched upon that during this episode. But we need to get our Dems off their rear and get out to vote. Thank you.